Hi, it's Ellie from the Radiant Form. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we have a yoga asana practice that is not too intense. It's fairly relaxing. There's some movement involved, but um, there won't be any long holds today and nothing too strength building. This is a practice that's designed really just to keep everything fluid and flexible and moving. I know that when I feel really tight and constricted in my body, I also tend to feel um, tight and constricted and maybe snappy emotionally. And likewise, sometimes when I'm feeling um, really limited and just in a bad mood, maybe really reactive and responsive, sometimes I also feel that in my body as a tightness and a discomfort. So, in an effort to combat that and keep everything moving, we're going to use this practice today to help create fluidity. So nothing lasts forever, hopefully, and the more we can pay attention to those painful moments and accept them, and then let them pass, the easier it gets to do that more quickly in the future. So um, this is a practice that I'm hoping will lift our spirits and keep our bodies and our hearts kind of more fluid and open. So with that, I invite you to join me in setting an intention for this practice. You're always, of course, welcome to bring your own intention. But if you would like to join me in my intention today, bringing the hands together at the heart, or perhaps at the forehead, or down in the lap. Today, I am open, loving, and expansive. So I offer this practice to help remind me to be open and expansive so that all of my experiences can flow through me and I can take what I need and let go of anything that doesn't serve me. So we'll take a few breaths, begin to deepen the breath, connect to it, notice it, maybe noticing the heart beating for you. And begin to really draw some awareness to all the points of contact with the mat. Today we are open and expansive. And then we will move into child's pose. So coming with our knees wide and the toes together. Just go ahead and press back. This is the first child's pose of the practice, so always expecting and anticipating a little tightness in the hips and in the low back, and making space for that emotionally. Trying not to be surprised by anything going on in the body, just allowing and accepting. Let the heart sink toward the mat and the forehead sink toward the mat. Softening the skin of the face. Go ahead and spread the fingertips wide, perhaps lifting the elbows up off the mat. Beginning to get some blood flowing through the arms. And pressing the hips back toward the heels. And then we'll inhale, coming up to our tabletop position. Wrists right under the shoulders and our knees right under the hips. And we'll just move into a few cat and cows. So really go ahead and press into the hands, especially the thumb and first finger. Spiral the inner elbows forward and the outer upper arms back. Those armpits, spiral them back. Press into the tops of the feet here. And then we'll inhale, draw the heart forward, dropping the belly, widening the collarbones. And exhale, scoop the tailbone in, scooping the belly up, pressing the upper back up toward the sky. Keeping that integrity in the lower belly. Inhaling into cow. Chin and tailbone up, rolling the shoulder heads back, wide through the collarbones. Exhale, squeezing the navel toward the spine. Scooping in through the belly, spinning those inner thighs back. One more just like that. Inhale, nice, slow, big, deep breaths. And exhale, pressing the upper back toward the sky, rounding through it, dropping the crown of the head. And then we'll walk the hands about a handprint forward. Take another cow pose, so dropping the belly, keeping those elbows squeezing in, so we don't want them popping out too much. So bring the chest forward, and then on the exhale, same cat motion with the hips and with the back, but then press the hips toward the heels. The knees are a little closer than they were before. Inhale back up into that modified cow pose. And exhale, press the hips back to the heels. Just a couple more like that. Inhale, rising up, bringing the chest forward through the arms, squeezing the shoulder blades together, and exhale, scooping the tailbone under, rounding through the upper back and pressing back to the heels. One more round. Inhale, coming forward, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze, and exhale, scooping up through the belly, rounding through the upper back and pressing back to the heels. And then from this child's pose, we'll kick the hips off to the left and walk the hands over to the right. Stretching through the left side body. Feeling this in the outer hip and in the obliques and through the armpit, through all those rib muscles, even through the shoulder. Inhaling, lengthening, and exhaling, deepening, maybe pressing the hips a little bit further toward the floor. And then inhale back to center. And exhale, the hips off to the right, hands off to the left. Really stretching through that whole side body. Feel the glutes start to warm up, the outer hip. All those beautiful, hard-working rib muscles and side abdominal muscles. Everything that works together to support our core. Stretching everything out here. Inhaling back to center. And then coming back up onto the hands and knees. With our hips right over our knees, we'll walk the hands forward and just sink the chest down into our puppy pose. This can be pretty intense, and if you're tight through the shoulders, I like to actually have something to prop my head on. It lets my neck feel a little bit safer so that I can press the heart toward the earth and roll my elbows toward the sky, but my armpits back. Beautiful. And then we'll come forward all the way onto the belly, drawing the thumbs back by the lower ribs, squeezing the elbows back, lifting up into a cobra pose, and then pressing back. We'll make our way into our first downward dog. Oh, hello, little creature. So with our hands about shoulder width distance apart and our feet about hip socket distance, pressing firmly through all 10 fingers, but especially that thumb and first finger, go ahead and press into the feet and lift the tailbone up, reaching toward the sky. Pedaling out the feet, soft through the neck. So nice elongated spine here, bending the knees as much as we need to, pressing up out of the hands to gain lots of length all down the back body here. Really taking our time to get stretched out and feel comfortable here. And then on the inhale, we'll lift the left leg up, keeping the foot flexed, toes pointing toward the ground. Nice even hips here. Lift that left leg up to the sky, and then exhale, walk it forward, bringing it between the hands. And we'll just bring that right back up and lower it down. Same thing on the right side, lifting the right leg up. Toes point down toward the earth, foot flexed, lifting up. And exhale, walk it forward through the front hands, in between the hands at the front of the mat. And then just bring it down. Bring it back into downward dog. And we'll slowly walk our feet back up to our hands. So again here, really bending through the knees as much as possible, trying to keep a nice flat back for as long as we can. Hands can be on the ground or on the shins. Big toes to touch, heels slightly apart. Just dangle here. Inhaling to halfway lift. Fingertips to the earth or to shins or to the fronts of the thighs. Squeeze those inner thighs back toward the wall behind you. Flat back, lifting up on the kneecaps, squeezing the quads, crown of the head pointing forward, and exhale all the way down. We'll step back into our plank pose just for a second. Knees down, coming all the way down to the earth. And then we'll come into a Sphinx pose. So with our elbows right underneath our shoulders and our forearms parallel with the sides of the mat, hands point straight in front of us, nice wide. Go ahead and just let your body sink down here for a second. Shake out the neck. Make sure our toes are pointing straight back behind us. Inner thighs gently spiraling toward the sky. Relax through the glutes. And then exhale, press into the elbows and the whole forearm. Wide through the collarbones, roll those shoulder heads back and press up. Lifting the belly up off the mat. And exhale, release down to the mat. We will bring the hands back, slide them back by the low ribs so that your thumbs are right next to your lower ribs. Roll the shoulder heads back, squeeze the elbows in, and lift up into a cobra. Big inhale, heart forward, gaze is up, and exhale back into that child's pose. Inhale back into that cobra pose. So inhale, ripple the spine forward, chin and chest, and rolling the shoulder heads back. Lift up into cobra. Wide collarbone, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Exhale, pull up through the belly, and press back into our child's pose. One more time here. Inhaling, coming through, chin and chest, squeezing the elbows in. Roll the shoulder heads back. Heart open, wide collarbones. Pull the shoulder blades down the back body. And exhale, scooping up through the belly, back into our child's pose. Beautiful work here. Feel your heart beating just a little bit faster with those heart openers, beginning to move the blood. And then we'll come sit up on the knees with the toes pointing straight back behind us. We're not going to hang out here, so we'll just get ourselves situated. So we want our toes pointed back, our inner thighs spiraling down, protecting our lower belly. We're going to bring the hands behind the feet, fingertips facing our feet, and then press into the hands, squeezing the elbows together, squeezing the shoulder blades together, rolling the shoulder heads back, and pressing open through the chest. Feel that stretch through the pectoral muscles, through the fronts of the deltoids, maybe even through some of the bicep muscle and other muscles of the arm, depending on where you're really tight. And then inhale, we'll lift the glutes up off of the feet if you can, pressing forward into a modified camel pose. Still squeezing those inner thighs together, pressing forward through the hip flexors, strengthening the quads, and exhale to release. Go ahead, sit here, palms up for a second. Feel that heart beating. Blood is beginning to move. I am open and expansive. And then we'll just walk forward into our tabletop and come into a downward dog. So hands about a handprint forward in front of the shoulders, tucking the toes under, really drawing energy up through the whole lower belly and core, and then squeezing the hips up and pressing the thighs back. Downward dog. Go ahead, inhale, lifting up that left leg, keeping that foot flexed, hips even, and exhale, squeeze it in and drop between the hands, rising up right away into a high lunge. So feet have a little distance between them. My left knee's right over my left ankle. Inhale, arms up, soften the shoulders away from the ears. Bending through the back knee just a little bit so I can try to keep my hips even toward the front of the mat. And exhale, open up into warrior two. So heel to arch alignment, opening that back foot up so back foot is parallel with the back edge of the mat. Just one more breath here, keeping that left knee right over my left ankle. And we'll inhale into reverse warrior. Big inhale here. And straightening out through the front leg, coming into reverse triangle. Extending through that arm, feeling a huge side stretch. Squeezing this left hip underneath me. Back hand above or below the knee joint. Bending again through that front knee. Inhale back into warrior two. Leaning out over the front leg and coming into side angle pose. So squeezing this left hip underneath me. And then straightening through that front leg, drawing it underneath you, pulling my abs away from that front thigh, coming into a triangle pose. And then lifting all the way up, we'll spin both toes out, coming into our 5-pointed star. Big, huge stretch here. And exhale into our goddess squat. So scooping the tailbone underneath us, bending the knees, pressing the knees out. Big goddess pose. Inhaling back up to 5-pointed star, coming into warrior two toward the opposite side, so toward the back of the mat. And then we'll just turn toward that side of the mat, dropping the back knee, coming into our low lunge, low crescent pose. So drawing the belly in, keeping that right knee over the right ankle, lifting up through the hands, and exhale, hands come down, and we'll straighten through that front leg, coming into our half splits pose, half Hanumanasana. Inhaling back into low lunge, bending through that front knee. Exhale, hands come down and straightening through that front leg, pulling in through the belly, squeezing that right hip back, left hip forward. One more time, bend through that front knee right over the right ankle, lifting up, shoulders soften away from the ears, and exhale, stretching into Hanumanasana, half splits pose. So keeping or avoiding locking out through that front knee. And then we'll walk the right foot a little bit wider to the edge of the mat, and we'll take both hands toward the inside of the left foot, coming into a lizard pose. So I'm really making sure that my knee is not going forward of my ankle, and also if my toes turn out, my knee turns out with it. So, or if the knee is popping out, my toes go with it. So keeping the toes in line with the knee. So either staying up on the hands or coming down onto the elbows, onto a block or the floor. Really getting a huge stretch through this left hip flexor, trying to keep my spine nice and long. And then coming back up here, we will gather our energy here. So really pull up through the belly. We're going to bring our left foot forward to meet the right. Coming into our malasana or garland pose. So again, if my toes point out or if my knees go out, that's fine. Just let your toes come with them. Squeezing the elbows into the knees, feeling this huge stretch through the groin and through the glutes, through all of the hips. A beautiful, nice, big stretch here. And then we'll just inhale, coming up to halfway lift here. Feet hip width distance, so walk them in just a little bit. And exhale, folding forward. We'll inhale and step the feet back. We'll come into a little vinyasa here. So knees down, and then dropping our chin and then our chest, keeping our elbows squeezing back. Roll the shoulder heads back, toes all down on the mat, lifting up into cobra. And exhale down, back into downward dog. Hips rising up. And we will make our way to face the other direction by moving through that sequence on the second side. So we'll lift our right leg up this time into our three-legged dog, keeping our hips even and level, toes pointed down toward the ground. And exhale, squeeze the knee in and walk it forward between the hands, rising up into our high lunge pose. So right knee right over the right ankle, bending through the back knee just a little bit to make sure I can keep my hips even with the front of the mat. And then maybe stretching back through that back heel after that. Soft shoulders, head over heart, heart over pelvis. Big inhale and exhale into our warrior two pose, heel to arch alignment. Letting the shoulder blades sink down. Squeezing this right hip underneath me. Inhaling, reverse warrior. Back hand comes above or below the knee joint. Bending deeply into that front knee. And then inhale to straighten that front leg. Really pulling through the hip on the right leg. Squeezing it underneath me. And exhale. Back into warrior two and leaning out over that front leg, coming into our side angle pose. So elbow to knee or foot to floor to the block. Big side stretch, especially through the left armpit, really pressing through the knife edge of the back foot and squeezing the right hip underneath me, pressing through the right heel. And then inhale, straighten through that front right leg, and exhale into triangle pose, pulling the abs away from the leg. Inhaling, rising back up into warrior two, and exhale, sink into it. Trying to keep my nice straight alignment. Just keep everything moving. Inhale, turn both toes out, heels in, coming into our five-pointed star. And exhale into goddess pose, bending the elbows, squeezing the knees out, pulling the hips underneath me. Inhale, rising up into goddess pose. And this time, turn the toes and heels out, hands to hips, and folding forward, hinging at the hips, coming into our wide-legged forward fold. Hands down, halfway lift. And then we'll just turn toward the front of the mat here. Our left leg forward, this time dropping the back knee. Lifting up into our crescent lunge, so pulling back on the left hip, pressing forward through the right hip. Left knee right over left ankle. Looking up. And exhale, hands down to the mat. We'll straighten through that front leg, coming into half splits pose on the left side, drawing back through the left hip, flexing the foot. Inhaling, bending that front knee, rising up into crescent lunge. And exhale, hands down, straightening through the front leg, coming to half splits pose. Inhaling into our crescent lunge, pulling in through the belly, feeling this big stretch through the right hip flexor. And exhale, hands down, straightening the front leg. into our half Hanumanasana, half splits. Maybe extending through the toes. Nice long spine here. And then inhale, straightening or bending through that front leg. Walk it out to the outside of the mat and bring both hands to the inside here. Coming into our lizard pose, back knee up or down. Maybe taking that block underneath you so we can keep our spine straight. And if it feels good to come down onto the elbows, go ahead. If that knee goes out, go ahead and turn the toes with it. If you feel like using some muscular energy to keep squeezing it in, then go ahead and do that. This is your practice to keep yourself fluid and moving and open, loving, and expansive. Inhale, rise up if you are down. And then we will walk our back foot forward, drawing our energy up through the pelvic floor and gathering our momentum, gathering our energy. Bring that right foot to the front of the mat and come down into our garland pose, our malasana. Feel everything opening, expanding. Feeling our attention growing. Beautiful. One big inhale and exhale everything out through the mouth. And then we'll inhale, lifting up, coming into our halfway lift with our nice wide feet. Go ahead and walk them about hip width distance. And then exhale, folding forward, grabbing at the opposite elbows, coming into ragdoll. Maybe bending through one knee and then the other. Just letting the spine be heavy. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, coming back into our plank pose. Right away, knees to the earth. Squeezing the elbows in, lowering chin and chest, rolling the shoulder heads back, all 10 toes press into the mat, and lifting into cobra pose. And exhale, moving back into downward dog. One more time through that little vinyasa, stepping or hopping to the front of the mat. Halfway lift. Exhale, folding forward. Rising all the way up. Inhale, arms up. Gathering the energy and folding forward, hands through heart center. Lifting up. And exhale, stepping back into plank pose again. Knees down. Lowering the chin and the chest. Rolling the shoulders back. Thumbs by low ribs. Lifting up into cobra pose. And pressing back into child's pose. Arms extended. Feel how much more fluidity you've gained since even the beginning of this gentle practice. And then we'll come into rabbit pose, which is a nice compression pose. So if that doesn't sound good to you, just hang out in child's pose. But if you'd like, I'm going to bring my knees together and then take my hands back, reaching for the soles of my feet. So grabbing onto my heels. I'm going to tuck my chin in as much as possible. So rounding through the upper back and drawing my forehead toward my knees, seeing if I can get the crown of my head onto the ground. But trying not to tense up too much through my upper neck, your upper back. So if I can just draw my forehead toward my knees without creating extra unnecessary tension, that's where I want to be. And then on the exhale, expanse, just stretch the hips up toward the sky a little bit, scooping through the belly. It's a very big stretch on the back of the neck. So if you do not have a healthy neck, or if this feels bad at all, come right out of it. And exhale, coming back into our relaxed child's pose. We'll extend the arms forward and then come into a seated wide-legged forward fold. So if you would like to sit up on a block or a blanket, go ahead and do so. We're just going to turn our toes and knees up to the ceiling or the sky, but not keep too much tension here. So this is fairly relaxed, just keeping our joints safe. So inhale, get steady, head over heart, heart over pelvis, lengthening through the spine, and then exhale, hinge forward from the hips. Pausing wherever you feel that first moment of tension where you feel like just a little bit of stoppage. So pause there, take your time here. No pressure. Just let everything slide forward. Let gravity help us. See if you can notice the difference between the right inner thigh, the left inner thigh. I like to imagine that I can actually see into all the different hamstring attachments and just feel which one is a little tighter today. There are 3 different hamstring muscles in the back of each leg, and they work together as a muscle group, but each one of them works a little bit differently and attaches in a slightly different place. So it's kind of fun to move slowly through a stretch and try to feel which layers of which muscle are kind of opening up and softening. And the slower we move, the more gently we move, the more strongly we signal to the nervous system that it is safe to release. And the muscles are able to gain more flexibility, to get longer. All right, and we'll press into the mat, sitting back up. And then we will come into a twist left and right. So, we'll take the left sole of the foot to the right inner thigh, sitting up nice and tall. Inhaling, arms up, and turn toward that straight leg and fold forward any amount. So you feel a nice stretch here through the outer left hip and also through the right hamstrings. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, fold forward. Reaching anywhere along the leg, you can use a strap to hold. Inhale, lifting up. And we will switch legs. So right sole of the foot to the left inner thigh, sitting up nice and tall. Turn to face that straight leg and exhale, folding forward. Reaching anywhere that feels comfortable. If you can reach the outside of the left foot, you can get a deeper stretch through the side body, the right side body. And inhaling, lifting back up. And we'll take a butterfly stretch here. So soles of the feet together. Nothing too intense. You don't have to bring them way tight in and worry about keeping your spine totally straight today. We'll just take something that feels really good. So if it feels good to use your thumbs and just kind of rub out the insoles here, go ahead and take that. Fold forward any amount and go ahead and let the spine round a little bit here. Often I like to just rock my head side to side without any tension on the back of the neck. Where do you most need the attention today? What needs to be opened and expanded in you? What's calling out for attention? I think it might be my inner thighs. Inhale, rising up. And then we will take a few bridge poses, a gentle heart opener. before we come into a shoulder stand pose. So taking our feet about hip width distance, we'll slowly release down onto the mat, drawing in through the belly, nice and strong. So hips are down on the earth. Go ahead and gently tuck the pelvis a little bit so that we're not slamming our lower back into the mat, but also there's not big gapping here. So we want a nice, we want no gapping, but also not tons of muscular energy squeezing our mat or our back into the mat. Just a little bit of gentle tucking. And then our feet are right underneath our knees. I like to see if my fingertips can gently touch the backs of my heels. That's how I know that I'm in good alignment, but find what works for you. So I'm going to imagine that I'm squeezing a block between my inner thighs, and then slowly press into my heels. Lots of energy here, and lifting up, squeezing my sacrum toward my knees, rolling up through my back. So squeezing through the glutes, squeezing through the hamstrings, pressing up, lifting up the lower back and the mid back and then the upper back, and maybe interlacing my hands underneath me, squeezing my shoulder blades under, pressing my heart open. So lifting through the heels, squeezing up. One more big inhale, lifting, and exhale, release the hands and slowly roll down one vertebrae at a time. Beautiful. Go ahead and just let the knees knock in toward each other, maybe walking the feet out a little bit wider. I like to take my hand over my heart and one hand on my belly. Feel my heartbeat, notice my breath. I am open and loving and expansive. And then twice more here, so walking the heels back underneath the knees, gently scooping in through the belly, soft to the shoulders, soft to the face, lifting up into bridge pose. Lift, 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 squeeze through the heels, press through the heels, maybe even lifting the toes up off the mat, pressing that sacrum toward the knees, lifting up, interlacing, other interlace, this time squeezing the shoulder blades together and pressing through the heels, pulling in through the belly. Big open heart, wide collarbones. And exhale, slowly lower down one vertebrae at a time. Same thing, let the knees knock in together, hand over heart, hand over belly. Think of one thing you're grateful for right now. And then extend a sense of loving kindness toward yourself. And we'll come into that bridge pose one more time. So heels under the knees. This time, I'm just going to press my hands into the mat, or you can grab the sides of the mat and squeeze them away from each other. So scooping in through the belly, begin to inhale and lift up. Actually, exhale, sorry. Exhale, lift up through the lower back, the mid back, and the upper back. Squeezing, squeezing, squeezing forward, soft through the shoulders, either interlacing the hands underneath you or squeezing the edges of the mat, pulling them apart from each other. Keeping that chest open. One more big inhale, lifting up through the glutes, and exhale, slowly lowering everything down. This time, draw the knees into the chest, giving yourself a hug, rocking side to side, maybe taking a few circles on that lower back. Beautiful. And then we'll take 3 rock and rolls. So grabbing behind the thighs, go ahead and just rock back and up. Back and up, massaging the spine. And then coming to sit, we will actually take another cobra pose. So making our way down onto the belly. We'll just take a few rolling cobras. So hands right underneath the shoulders. Roll the shoulder heads back and then lift up. So it won't be as high of a cobra pose because our hands are a little bit more forward. And then exhale, lower down. Move the thumbs back to the middle of the rib cage, squeezing the elbows together, lifting up. Slightly higher cobra, exhale, rolling back down, and thumbs back by the low ribs this time, squeezing the elbows in, lifting into a nice high cobra. Maybe even if you're feeling up to it, lifting the thighs and knees off the floor, pulling in through the belly into our upward dog, and then lowering down all the way to the mat, coming into a child's pose. Coming back forward, we'll take our legs forward, rolling back, and we'll come into a supported shoulder stand. So we'll roll back, and you can either, if you're not up for shoulder stand today, you're welcome to take a supported bridge pose or a supported legs up the wall. So if you're going to do that, take a block on the lowest level or the middle level, and then lifting up into that bridge pose again, take the block right underneath the sacrum. So not on the spine and not too low either, not on the tailbone, but on that nice wide triangular bone, the sacrum. And then you can just stay here in supported bridge, which is very restorative, or lifting the legs up for a little bit more energetic work, but also still really relaxing for the nervous system. If you would like to try for a shoulder stand, we want to keep our neck really neutral. So eyes face up. Don't turn your head when you're in shoulder stand or plow pose ever. So rocking up, we'll take our hands to the lower back and support. We want our elbows to be close together, and then extending our legs up, trying walking our hands up the back. This is not the most graceful pose for me, but sometimes it's kind of relieving. And if that feels good from there, you can try, if your upper back feels open, you can release the legs to the floor. If your knees and ankles don't touch easily, keep your hands on the lower back. Or you can extend the legs into plow pose, getting a really deep hamstring stretch. Some days my neck is over this, and some days it is really not. So just please notice what's going on in your body today. And whatever you do, try to stay really soft through the back of the neck. And bending these, keeping the hands at the low back and the glutes for support. Just slowly rock back down. And we'll take 3 more of those rock and rolls. Rocking up and back and up, squeezing into the belly, supporting the lower back. And then we'll take 3 more of those rolling cobras real quick. So coming all the way onto the belly, forehead down to the earth, toes point straight back behind you, soft through the glutes, inner thighs rolling up for the sky, hands right under the fronts of the shoulders, lifting up into low cobra, exhaling down, thumbs back about an inch into the middle ribs, lifting up into a slightly higher cobra, exhale back down, and thumbs by the low ribs, elbows squeeze in, lifting up, feeling open back, open neck. This time, go ahead and look out over the right shoulder, pulling back through the left shoulder, pull it back, and back to center, looking over the left shoulder and pulling back through the right shoulder, back to center, and exhale, lowering all the way down, coming into our child's pose. I am open, loving, and expansive. So Maybe take your knees a little wider than normal and really feel that heart sinking to the earth. Let the forehead soften. No tension through the face, the upper neck, upper back. Slowly making our way to seated. We'll take just a little easy pose here. So crossing the legs, either one leg in front of the other, or in a regular cross-legged position, or maybe even to a half lotus or lotus. If you do that, go ahead, take the heel toward the navel and then over to the hip flexor. My hips are not up for full lotus today, but sometimes it's nice to just try on both sides. So I'm going to take my left foot now to my navel, heel to my navel, and then across to my right hip flexor. It's always good to try new things, right? Because every day is a little bit different, and every day you learn something new about yourself and the world. So then we'll take half Lord of the Fishes for a little twist pose here. So I'm going to bend my left knee underneath me and take my right foot across to the outside of my left leg, and then try to make sure both sits bones are connecting to the earth. Sometimes that right one wants to pop up, whatever the top knee is. So maybe try rearranging the position of your foot on the earth. We want to try to get that right foot flat on the earth, and then sitting up nice and tall. We'll lift up through the left arm and exhale, twist toward that right leg, hugging it in. Inhale, sitting up nice and tall, and exhale, rotate open toward that top leg. Looking out over the right shoulder if it feels good, or not that far, just in that direction. So the twist is initiated from the lower spine and moves up the column of the spine. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, deepen. And inhale, release back to center, and we'll switch sides. So bending the right knee underneath and taking the left foot to the outside of the right leg. Adjusting to make sure both sits bones are connected to the earth. Sitting up nice and tall, then inhale, lifting that right arm, and exhale, twisting toward that bent left leg, hugging it in. Inhale, sitting up nice and tall. Exhale, taking the left hand behind me. I feel the tension in my chest beginning to open up, but it's still something I'm very aware of. So breathing into that as I open up through this twist. I am open, loving, and expansive. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, twisting toward that left side. Feeling the spine twisting from the base of the spine and upward. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, move a little bit deeper. And then inhale back to center. We'll come into a reverse tabletop pose. So feet, toes pointing straight forward toward the front of the mat. Fingertips pointing toward my glutes, rolling the shoulder heads back, squeezing the elbows together, squeezing the shoulder blades together. Big inhale and exhale, lift up, spiraling the inner thighs down, pressing into my heels firmly, squeezing the glutes toward the knees. Same kind of motion as in that bridge pose, but here I am getting an even bigger chest expansion. I am open, loving, and expansive. Big inhale and exhale, slowly lower the glutes down. Beautiful, and then we'll lower all the way back onto our back again. Taking our knees into our chest, once again feeling that nice compression, giving ourselves a hug. Beautiful, and then we will take the right ankle on top of the left knee, coming into a reclining figure four, reclining pigeon pose. So grabbing anywhere behind that or on that left leg that we can reach, behind the thigh or on the shin. Go ahead and keep the right foot flexed here. I like to flex both of my feet to help just remind me to keep my knees really safe. Drawing that left knee in toward the chest if it feels good, but moving always slowly and with attention. So I'm never forcing a stretch. I don't want to cause any harm to my body unnecessarily. Noticing where you feel this the most. And then releasing the hands. Keep the legs in the same position, but release that left leg to the floor. And then we'll take the hips off to the right a little bit and let the knees drop toward the left in the same kind of position into an interesting little twist here. So try to keep that right shoulder on the ground as much as possible. Maybe even supporting the left knee, or sorry, on the left side, taking a block supporting the right knee, or something with a block. That can be really nourishing in a twist so that you don't feel like you're collapsing, but it lets you get the stretch through the outer hip here and focus more on the spinal twist than on trying to protect your legs. So always offering your body whatever extra support it needs so that it is able to move more fluidly and with more grace. Spiraling that navel up toward the sky. Deep inhales and exhales as we move toward the end of our practice here. And then we'll inhale the legs back to center, evening out the hips. And then take that left ankle on top of the right knee and draw the right leg in toward the chest, grabbing anywhere behind the right thigh or on top of the shin. Keep the left foot firmly flexed. Deep breath here. Always feels good to get a little ankle rotation in for me. They always have a little popping and crackling to do. So honor your body. Take whatever movement you need and when it feels good. Sinking into the stretch, layer by layer. Softening through the shoulders, making sure that I'm not creating any extra tension in the neck. One more full cycle of breath here. Honoring your body for all the work you've done today. And then we'll slowly lower that right foot back to the ground, taking the hips off to the left a little bit, and then just letting the knees drop off to the right, staying in this position, giving it whatever extra support it needs. Arms can be out to a T, or cactus, whatever feels good to you. Find deep release here in this spinal twist. Letting the body slowly process anything else out that it wants to get rid of as we prepare for our Shavasana. Coming into our deep relaxation to take advantage of all the work. Let ourselves process it all. And inhaling, drawing the legs back to center. We'll just take one more chest compression, squeezing those legs in. And then we'll walk the feet out, lengthening out through the spine, lengthening the tailbone, letting the feet flop open, rolling the shoulder blades underneath us. Get yourself some extra support for the head or for the knees if that feels good today. Take one more really big deep breath, drawing everything in, and then softening everything as you release it out through the mouth, sighing everything out. Let yourself come into a deep relaxation here. Shavasana. Begin to deepen the breath, bringing awareness back into the body. Feel the body on your mat. Notice the weight of your body. And begin to wiggle the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. Stretching out, arms overhead. And slowly bending the knees, rolling off to one side. Pausing for a moment for gratitude for all of the things that you have done already today. And for what you will go forward and do. And then we'll make our way up to seated. Rolling the shoulders back a few times. Really taking in that feeling of expansiveness, of openness, embodying it so we can live it. Thank you so much for joining me today. May you truly feel loving and expansive, and may you feel loved, and may you be radiant. I honor you. Namaste.